I'm David Hepworth. Thanks for clicking this Word in Your Ear podcast, videocast thing for which there is no name. Mark Ellen and I have been creating in this line since 2007. And if any of it has met with your approval, then please click to subscribe because it helps. Leave a comment because we like to hear from you, and maybe even consider becoming a Patreon supporter because then, well, you'll be one of us. Visit patreon.com/wordinyourear for details.
This is Word Down Your Way, in which those about to tour salute you.
Welcome to this, which continues our glorious series of former smash hits cover stars on the podcast, in her case with Tapao, and with whom she is playing some shows this summer and autumn. Carol Decker. Carol, very nice to see you.
Oh, it's lovely to be with you. Thank you so much for asking me.
And you're in
Do you remember your
Henley-on-Thames.
Smash Hit? Do you remember your Smash Hits cover? Have you got it?
I probably have in a box somewhere. I think we were on the cover a couple of times.
Oh, right, you probably were.
After our time. We've had, haven't we? Nick Kershaw.
We've had them all in the back
Gary
of our cab.
Kemp. We've had Martin
Clare
Fry,
Grogan. Yes.
Toyah,
I
Clare
love that.
Grogan. That's right. Fantastic. Very good
Yeah.
to see you. And you're in Henley-on-Thames, right?
I'm in Henley-on-Thames in Oxfordshire. Yeah.
Henley-on-Thames.
We just discovered how star-studded Henley-on-Thames is. Give people an idea of how star-studded it is.
Well, we have the late greats, don't we? Of course, George Harrison, who
Yes.
I've got a little connection with. So Friar Park is in the middle of town. His huge estate, the Gates End in the middle of the town, right near the Row Barge pub, which was his local.
He used to go there because he had a landlord who came from Liverpool, I remember reading a few years ago.
Probably, yeah. I'm from Liverpool as well. So.
Oh, well, there you go.
Didn't he have a
And,
little ukulele gang that he used to play with there? I think he did.
Oh, there might have been. You know Sam Brown?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah.
She has a ukulele orchestra and she lived around here for years. So it might have been something to do with that. And then we have the late and absolutely amazing Dusty Springfield, lived just down the hill from me. In fact, her house got sold a couple of years ago, renovated. And her gravestone is in the town and there's always flowers there. So I go and have a little chat.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
sure.
lovely.
But in the land of the living, were Nick Hayward.
Yeah, Nick's been here a long time. Yeah.
Right.
Big block.
See, do you bump into each other at the supermarket?
He doesn't go in the supermarket. I don't think he does that. I think he's probably a Waitrose order at home boy.
Right.
I'm down in Tesco looking for yellow stickers. In fact, my kids, when they were little, thought I shopped in a supermarket called Reduced. Nick is lovely, know him well, do many shows with him. And we often bump into each other in the square, actually. There's a nice square in here.
Yeah.
And if the sun's out, then a lot of the eateries and cafes will put their chairs out and we'll bump into each other, that sort of place, yeah.
Right.
I love this.
See,
It's like a smash hits kind of cartoon, isn't it,
it's
Dave?
Stella Street.
We used to invent this whole thing about Stella Street. In fact, we did get a cartoonist to illustrate it once, and it's the idea of all these people still meeting up,
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah. No, you get a lot of people coming through, and Henley gets quite bonkers in the summer because we have Regatta, which is just about to start. Then we have the traditional boat show, that's huge. And then we have Rewind Festival, which I'm playing this year, which is one of the biggest 80s festivals going. And then there's Henley Festival. I think Diana Ross might be headlining this year.
And then there's the Literature Festival and so forth, which Mark has visited as well, I think.
Yeah, there's a few months where it's insanely busy.
So who's playing the Rewind Festival? Who are you on the bill with?
Do you know what? I don't know. If you go on the website.
The usual suspects.
It's the usual suspects. Yeah, I just did...
People you last saw on Top of the Pops in 1989 or whatever. Yeah.
We see each other a lot. So there's all the festivals and we do cruises now, which are great.
Oh, right.
The big cruise from Miami to Miami in February. That was fantastic. And we've been out to Bali. We do Rewind Dubai, Rewind Dublin, massive festivals. And yeah, it usually is the same people. And I just did a Butlin's Big Weekender with Tony Hadley on Saturday, which was fantastic. But
which Butlins was that at?
I was at Bognor Regis.
Right, okay.
And they're huge. They're absolutely massive. And It started quite a few years ago, and I've got to say credit to Butlins because they were scratching their heads. What do we do?
Yeah.
What do we do in the winter when it's not sunny and all the families aren't here? And so they started these big weekenders. So there's bikers weekenders, the 70s, 80s, 90s.
Oh, right.
And they're absolutely rammed, and people are off their faces by at least 4 p.m.
I would imagine it probably.
Because that's an audience that you've already won before you go on stage, surely.
Exactly, and they love you. It is nice because they know all the songs as well. So it's kind of it's a given. It's all going to go well. Yeah.
So give us an insight into the cruises. Do you go? Are there other acts on the cruises when you do?
Yeah. So the one I did, there's been some dramas as well.
Oh,
so,
right.
Go on.
2 years ago, I was on a big cruise, Virgin Cruises, with Tony Hadley, Go West, Toyah, and Clare, lovely Clare Grogan. And we get this announcement, fast asleep, and the captain is tannoyed straight into your cabin. And it must have been just coming up for 9 o'clock in the morning. It's like, ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. So sorry to inform you, but we have a passenger overboard, and we need to return to the coordinates of when it was discovered he'd gone missing, the person had gone missing. So we had to sail back to these coordinates, and they had this chap on CCTV footage, the cameras all around the ship, at 2 a.m. jumping overboard.
Oh, my God.
And his wife woke up sort of 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, couldn't find him. He wasn't in the cabin, wasn't on the loo, got in touch with the purser. And so you're bound by maritime law to go back and help with the search. But what didn't help was that it got in the papers, and there was a picture of me and Tony Hadley, both with microphones in our hands, going like this.
That doesn't seem to strike the right tone.
No,
Never mind.
A, we didn't care.
Never mind, the show must go on.
Or B, we were so awful he threw himself over.
Yeah. Oh,
but no, it was awful. It was horrifying. And
I bet.
And I don't know if you've been on a cruise, but when you're really out to sea at night and there's no lights and no shoreline, there's an inky black sea, and the waves are really big, and just the black sky and possibly some stars if it's not cloudy, you just think, oh my God, did they regret it halfway down? What, did they die when they hit the water? Did they take you can only hope that they did. I think the water's a bit like concrete from that height.
Really?
But all these macabre thoughts, And then it happened again on the cruise coming out of Miami that I've just done. It was an 80s cruise. Lots of American bands were on board as well. And there was a band called Faster Pussycat.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And lead singer's fiance, they had a big row. She went back up to the cabin, jumped straight off.
Oh, Lord.
I know, it happens more than you think, and it's nothing to do with 80s music.
Let's assume not. I mean,
yeah.
Well, look, we should transport you back, Dave, should we?
Yes,
to the first...
That's big. That's good stuff to start with there.
It is. That really is. To the first gigs you saw, because I'm trying to remember where you grew up. Was it Shropshire?
Liverpool.
I am from Liverpool, but we left when I was 7, and I grew up in Shropshire, and I lived all around the county, Wellington when I was younger, and Ironbridge, Bridge North, and Shrewsbury. So the first proper big gig I went to, though, was to see Rod Stewart and the Faces at Trentham Gardens in Stoke.
Oh, right, Stoke. Trentham Gardens.
And
rings a bell.
Yeah. It was inside. It was in a hall, I think. I don't think it was out.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
So it wasn't booting footballs off the stage. That was outdoor shows.
All their long scarves. It was the long scarf.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I remember, actually, it wasn't that packed because I was kind of wandering around the crowd and people were sitting down with their backs up against walls and stuff, fully enjoying the concert. But it was just quite mellow. Yeah.
You see, that's the great truth about gigs in the past. There weren't that many people there, not compared to now. Audiences are way bigger nowadays than they ever used to be.
Yeah. In fact, I do like a bit of a shock and awe audience, even for myself, when Toyah were big and we were playing big festivals, or the first time we sold our own Wembley, which is Wembley Arena, I think it's about 12,000, I think.
Something like that,
yeah. That's that does, it's amazing. It does make you feel good. But when they're so big that you have to have like repeater screens.
Yes.
People because they're in another town. They're in another
different postal code, aren't they?
Yeah, it's saying like Rio, so that's bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's
so
the biggest
this was the classic. This was the classic Faces lineup. This was with Ronnie Wood and Ronnie Lane.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they're getting back together again, aren't they? Rod's health permitting, they're supposed to be doing something, aren't they?
I read about that. Yeah, but is Rod not well? I didn't know.
He's going to cancel some shows in the States last week or so. He was not well. So, but he's basically playing Glastonbury, isn't he? I think he
this weekend. Yeah.
Oh, is it this week?
Slot.
Is it this week?
No, not this week. It's next weekend, isn't it?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right. Well, I hope you're better.
So who else did you see, Carol? That's a good start, the Faces. That's a good kick-off,
and then I went to see, it might have been Stoke-On-Trent again. It was an old wrestling hall.
Oh, right.
And it was a sort of almost like a circular venue. It's probably been knocked down. And there were balconies and people could look down. And I went with a music journalist I knew at the time called Mike Davis. He took me, and it was a very early Dire Straits concert.
Oh, wow.
And again, just maybe 400 people.
Really?
And I'll never forget being fascinated that Mark Knopfler had his dobro guitar, which is silver.
Yeah.
And he used it. It's an old trick now, but it's the first time I'd seen it, and the lighting engineer put the lights onto it, and he bounced the lights off and all around.
Right.
And again, it was a wonderful concert because it was very intimate, and I personally think he's one of the most standing guitarists. I was just surprised, even if you don't like all the songs. And I know Dire Straits can be a little bit Marmite, can't they? Like Coldplay for some people.
But he's interesting.
I don't know if they are Marmite. It's hard not to like them, really. There's nothing offensive about them,
He it's really interesting, Mark Knopfler. He kind of turned his back on it, didn't he, really? He said, I've done enough of that stuff. I've made a lot of money. I'm just going to go off and do what I want to do. And that's what he's done for a long time.
Well, yeah, because he made a lot of money, he was able to do that and salve his soul. Because, well, let's take Rod or Paul McCartney. They still want to continue to do it, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Some people just say, no, been there, done that.
There's a competitive gene in those guys, isn't there? They just think, are there any more records that I haven't broken? And I like that. I admire them, Keeps them going.
So what was your first time on a stage yourself?
Oh, okay. It was probably a little pub called The Star in Shifnal in Shropshire. Right. And it was my first band that I'd auditioned to be in, because I was quite late to the party. I'd gone back to art school at the age of about 22. And it was in that environment that I met lots of fantastically creative and eclectic people. Because prior to that, I'd gone to a very straight-laced girls' grammar school where, things like playing a musical instrument or being able to sing or being artistic was more like a hobby or an accomplishment for a young lady, not a career. Nobody thought of it, and I didn't think of it. I had known that I could always sing because I was always told that I could sing. Whenever I sang along to the radio, people would say, gosh, you've got a lovely voice, or I could harmonise like that. People would say, have you heard this song before? And I hadn't. I could just hear the notes, So when I was at art, I decided to go back to art school because I didn't know what to do with myself, and blagged my way in with a very bad portfolio and singing along to the radio all the time in the live art room. We're doing live drawing, and someone said, you should join a band. You've got a really good voice. In fact, they sort of said, I wish you'd stop annoying us by singing over the radio.
Shut up and join a band.
Yeah, join a band.
Go away and do it somewhere else.
Yeah, and then this girl said, because I was always putting a third or a fifth harmony across the top of everything. It must have been really annoying. And she said, actually, I'm going to a party this weekend, and a friend of mine, he is looking for a singer. You should come and meet him because you can really sing. And I went, okay. So I went along to this party, met this guy called Julian, went and did a rehearsal with them in the drummer's garage in Ludlow, which was about 40-mile round trip from Shrewsbury. It was absolutely bloody freezing. But they had a farm, so, we could make as much noise as we liked, and got the job. And then quickly did a gig, and I think it was the Star in Shifnal. And
what was that band called? Did it have a name?
Oh, yeah. The Lazers with a
the Lazers.
With a Z.
There's a clip. I saw a clip of them.
Yeah, well, we did quite well locally,
Yeah,
because we were at remember the TV studios, Pebble Mill.
Oh yeah.
We did a lot of stuff there, and then also big radio. I think BRMB might still be going in Birmingham, but
there's a clip.
Radio. We used to do sessions for them, like for the BBC. You know.
Oh right.
We should attach this clip to this podcast. But there's one of you on a show. Maybe it's Pebble Mill, and you're being introduced by Toyah.
Yes.
Who's speaking in a really Cockney accent, and she goes, "Let's go on safari with the Lazers." and you come on, and I don't know how you describe it. I suppose it's what we used to call new wave, isn't it?
It's a bit scar.
Yeah, a little bit scarred, a bit jerky, isn't it?
Yeah, so that was Julian's influence, because he did all the writing then. He wrote that song, you know. It was a little while before I started to flex my songwriting muscle. So so we did that, but also lots of our gigs, we did covers, you know, because we had to earn some money.
What did you play? What kind of things?
Oh, I can't remember, but, you know, we even did things like Spanish Eyes and stuff in Working Men's Club.
Right.
We were the unwelcome interruption in the bingo in many a working man's club, you know. But you learnt your craft, you know, you learnt your craft. So Julian was writing, then we started co-writing, and then eventually I met Ronnie Rogers, who was my boyfriend, and we took over the writing and stuff, and then eventually left to start writing for ourselves, and we formed a pair after that. But yeah, it was just little pubs and clubs. But Shropshire was so slow, because you've got to remember this is 100 years ago, you know, there was no internet or YouTube or anything like that. It was, let me think, it must have been easily the early 80s. Yeah, probably 81, I think. People were still flobbing at us because they thought it was 1976.
Oh,
God, grim.
You'll get spat at.
Oh, dear.
In the early 80s, I know they were so behind
that's
the times.
grim. But did you play your own, when you were in the Working Men's Club, so you did all the covers, you did Midnight Hour, what it was, and then did you suddenly go, here's one by the lake, here's Let's Go on Safari? Or did you...
Yeah, we'd throw one in now and again, but not very often because they didn't want to. And another band I was in, which was, sorry, it's not very chronological, it's all coming back to me out of order, but I was in an Elvis covers band.
Oh, brilliant.
Which was fantastic. And he was an Indian guy, and he loved Elvis, and he was quite wealthy. And so he put a hell of a lineup together. We had 3-piece backing vocal section, of which I was one, 3-piece brass section, guitarist, bass, drums, everything. So, because he did the whole massive show, you know. Oh, I wish I was in a land. All that.
So it was a kind of wish fulfillment on the part of...
I was going to say, this is a kind of vanity project, isn't it?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, it was a vanity project. He just loved Elvis, and again we went around. The band was bigger than the venue half the time. You know, we couldn't fit in all the places that were available because he wasn't famous for doing it. He just loved doing it. So,
but what fun to be in a backing vocal team, you know, singing an Elvis songs. I mean, that must be great.
I love all that, and I did backing vocals for a long time. And my first manager, his stage name was Chris Cross, not the famous Christopher Cross. And he adored Neil Diamond, so he funded his own Neil Diamond record, and I did all the BVs on that, you know. So, and they're great songs, you know. They were a little
brilliant.
At the time when I was young, I considered them very old-fashioned.
Yeah.
Now I'm older, I see the virtue in lots of things that I didn't at the time, like ABBA. I couldn't bear ABBA when I was young, like Yawnsville, and now I'm like, masters of the universe, you know.
Right, absolutely.
I really appreciated it. Yeah.
So what's the secret of the backing vocals world? I mean, those three, you know, young women behind the microphones, are they off there kind of having their own kind of fun in the side of the stage kind of thing? Because they're not bearing the major responsibility, or are they?
No, you are very much in a support role. And, you know, I work with backing girls all the time. Like I just recently did the piano room, and I had 2 fabulous backing vocalists at the Butlin show. We had a massive band with 2 wonderful backing vocalists. So their job is to support, obviously, the lead vocal, and not do anything that detracts from the lead person. So I was in this other band called the UK Players, who were signed to EMI, and I got a gig doing BVs for them, and I got told off by the manager because I was dancing too much and I was pulling focus.
Yeah, you can't upstage the lead singer, can you?
And I mean it genuinely. I wasn't doing it on purpose. I was just really grooving on the music, but I was pulling focus. So when you're a BV, you've got to just blend in, do your job, and support.
Did you ever have choreography where the two or the three of you or whatever were doing exactly the same movements? You worked out a routine?
Seldom choreograph. You just figure it out between you. So we'll go to two to the left, two to the right, like this, and then. But it's just hand movements again. Nothing too big.
No, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just all in sync, but nothing too big. Yeah.
So you were saying that you're working with a good band recently with on the Rewind thing. Is it one band that everybody plays in front of?
For a chunk of the day. So you'll get a couple of guest artists, but in particular, the headline act of the night, they'll have their own thing. If it's Tony Hadley or if it's OMD, they bring their whole thing with them, Kim Wilde, the whole thing. And then the rest of us are slightly lower down the bill. It will be a massive house band, but they are spectacular players. It's really well done. And yeah, we'll all come on and do maybe 20 minutes each.
Yeah.
And it's great for the audience because they get the hits that they remember, and they get to see 7 or 8 of their favourite sort of 80s artists. And everybody, pop music was so great then. They get to hear some wonderful songs and great.
But that's the right formula. It's like the 60s, isn't it? Those package tours. You just get 3 songs from everybody. Bang, bang, bang. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And so that's what happens on the cruises as well. There'll be a gang of us, and often it's the Rewind band, or there's another brand called Let's Rock, and that's the same. We all use the same band. But
have you got very fond memories of the 80s? It's funny, we were talking to Nick Kershaw the other day, talking about old smash hits, cover stars, and saying, it must have been fantastic. He had all those hits, And he said, actually, I found it really difficult. I'm much happier now. It was really stressful and anxious. And are you going to have a follow-up hit? And oh, God, this press we've got to do it.
Funnily enough, here's how far back Nick and I go. The first big break for Toyah was supporting him on the Radio Musicola tour when Heart and Soul was just bubbling up the charts. So that's how long I've known Nick. And it was that we were touring right in the middle of the hurricane that wasn't meant to be coming. Do you remember?
87.
Nothing to see here.
Oh, yeah, the mighty wind.
Nearly died on the way to the next gig. It was terrible.
Yeah,
I know. I loved it personally because, like I said, I was late to the party, didn't start singing until I was 22, didn't really catch any decent London management till I was 26, didn't really make my first record till I was 28. I was 30 years old by the time China in Your Hand was at number 1. So I worked hard and I wanted it and I loved it, and I didn't like it when it went away. But Nick's a different person to me. He's a very deep thinker and a very, very serious musician. So I imagine he probably is happier now than being that sort of pop star mould. I loved it.
Yeah.
Did you support Status Quo back in the day?
Hey?
Didn't you support Status Quo early on?
We did. We went across Germany with them, and I just had my daughter. She was 6 months old, and my mum moved in to look after her, and everything was fine. Like, Scarlett was a healthy baby. I had no problems, neither did she. But I'd never had a baby before, a child before. I was 40. I didn't have Scarlett till I was 40. So I just went, hey, Mum, I've got this tour. So if you could just come and look after her, and I'll be back in like about a month, And
that's what mothers are for.
Yeah.
And of course I was sobbing, and also I kept lactating. And I just didn't realise. I just thought, my mum's there, my dad's there. I'm going to miss her, but she's safe. She's loved. I've got all my ducks lined up to look after her. I just need to go do this tour. I'll be right back. And I was sobbing at night. It was just the worst decision I ever made in my life. Scarlett was absolutely fine. She just adored my mum and she didn't care. So halfway through the tour, Richard, my husband, drove her out so I could cuddle. And then, of course, when he took her away again, I was just sobbing.
Oh, God.
And the Status Quo's crew were horrible to us. They were really horrible. It was back in the day when the support act were an annoyance and to be treated as badly as they could be. So I had the worst.
But also, if you had to think of one group who might be less sympathetic about a situation like that, you'd have trouble coming up with someone.
Not exactly in touch with their female side.
Not really. They're not the wokest group.
Sis and Rick were very sweet to me. They really, really were. But their crew were horrible. And I don't know if many people out there in the world know this. It doesn't really happen much anymore. I've encountered it once in the last 2 years, being sort of scorned by a headline acts crew, like I was something on their show. It used to happen all the time back then.
Yeah, it did.
They'd try and stiff you on your sound check. You couldn't get many of the lights. They'd restrict your use of the PA. We got to this frozen town in East Germany, and don't forget, we weren't in a big sleeper bus like the Quo. We were in like some Charabang bus, and raced into catering. It was absolutely frozen wasteland, and went to the super and started trying to get some soup to warm up, and the caterers were screaming, "Get your hands off the soup, you're not in the budget for the soup." And it was horrible.
That's Francis Ross's soup, love.
That's Francis' soup. There's a Rick's,
walk away.
There's a Rick's croutons, put them back.
That's right. Your Kit Kats over there. That's
yeah. No, the boys were great, but the crew were not nice at all.
Oh, God.
So what shape did you're touring soon, are you?
Well, not touring with a capital T. I just work all the time.
Right.
So we're thinking in 2027, provided I'm still alive, because I'm 68 this year. That's the 40th anniversary of Bridge of Spies. So I need to talk to a promoter. We're just looking into who we want to talk to, because it would be good to do the Bridge of Spies tour. Actually,
right.
It and theme it. But aside from that, I'm just always gigging. It's ad hoc. It's as the phone rings or as the emails come in, So if folks are interested, they just go on the topower.co.uk website and you can see where we are. So it's not a tour as such.
Right, okay.
How many members of the group? So it's Ronnie Rogers is there. How many other members of the original group are there?
Only Ron. Because Ronnie and I were signed to the label. The original lineup were hired hands signed to a production deal with us. So when we finally got our record deal, and Ronnie and I wrote all the songs, they said, right, you've got to put a band together. And so we got two guys from Shropshire, bass player Paul Jackson, keyboard player Michael Chetwood. And then by then we'd been working in London and been introduced to some London musicians. So we had Taj Moskowski on guitar, lead guitar, and Tim Burgess on drums. And that was it. So we paid them. They were on like a salary to us, but it was Ronnie and I that was signed to the label and wrote all the stuff.
Right. And have any of your songs had a kind of afterlife in commercials or movies or anything like that?
Yeah.
One was in the Peppy Jeans ad, wasn't it?
Yeah, Heart and Soul. Heart and Soul.
That was the kind of what broke you in America, I think.
Yes, it really helped. Heart and Soul is always in American movies. I just got an email from Universal the other day saying we would give permission for it to be in another movie. And my biggest, I Love Cool Things. Charlie Brooker put it in an episode of Black Mirror.
Right.
Oh, brilliant.
Fantastic. And then China in Your Hand. It's quite a few years ago now, in the PG Tips advert. That was a nice little money spinner.
Right. Yeah. And you always know about those things before they happen, do you? Or is it just that, a check arrives or something?
No, for commercial, for things like that they have to seek your permission. So for TV, movies, sync rights, commercials, you have to give permission. I've just turned something down. I didn't think it was appropriate. But once the song's out in the public domain, you can go record it. So you could do Mark Ellen does Dallas album, and you can sing anything you want. That's why people can go and sing other songs, publicly or record them, but not for commercial purposes like that.
But you've retained kind of ownership of your material.
No, never did own it. So here's the kicker, and it happened to a lot of young artists in the 80s. I signed in perpetuity deals. So I don't own my back catalogue, but what I can do if I want to, but I never have, is I'm free to re-record them. So, for example, I did one thing. So the PG Tips advert, I'd been given a budget by a French company to do a re-record of China in Your Hand, and it was pretty much a sound alike. And so PG Tips came to me, and they used the backing track that I own.
Right.
So I got all the money for that, which was great. But Universal now own Universal owned the world. So I was signed to Siren.
I was going to say, yeah.
I was signed to Siren, which was a subsid of Virgin. I was on Virgin Worldwide. Then EMI bought Virgin, and then Universal bought everybody. So
when EMI bought Virgin, a load of bands were dropped, weren't they? I think, or just shuffled off.
I was one of them.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it. 80 bands were dropped.
80.
And 80 personnel were let go and escorted from their desks. You know, you get escorted from desks for certain things. So because you're in the middle of contracts and stuff like that. It was a horrible day. I think it was in 1991. It was awful. And then it was all over.
You must have watched the recent story of Taylor Swift buying back her catalogue with interest. Because she re-recorded stuff, didn't she, in order to drive the value down, then she could buy it.
Well, exactly. Yeah, but she's clever, isn't she? And also she's Taylor Swift, and so that the interest level will always be there. I can't. Yeah. I'm very realistic about where I am on the food chain, so I can't be bothered to go and re-record all my stuff just in case somebody wants Heart and Soul again in a film. It doesn't happen regularly enough for it.
Right.
But here's the interesting thing: in 2022. There was an article in Music Week where Universal very quietly, a bit like the government when they just let things slip out that they didn't want you to notice, they gave an amnesty to unrecouped bands. So we were still unrecouped, and I don't think we should be, so there's an audit coming. But anyway, the unrecoupment was backdated to 2022, so I've recently had a fantastic solicitor go through all that with Universal, and Ronnie and I have just had a little bit of money back off them, which was great. We're now clear of any debt, and now we're going to renegotiate the royalty rate going forward. Right. So it's not all bleak, but no, I don't own my stuff. And there's a thing now where I get emails all the time from people saying, "Do you want to sell your writer's share of your catalogue?" I never really do anything about that yet, so I don't know. A good friend of mine who's in another band, he sold his writer's share. So, it's a thing to do.
Yeah. Is this the stuff that you all talk about backstage at Rewind?
No, I'll tell you what we talk about. This is going to make you laugh. My husband has nicknamed this appearing at an A&E near you. Tony Hadley is just about to have a knee op because he's hurt his knee. Nick Kershaw did his cruciate ligament in skiing 2 years ago. He's had to have a knee operation. Martin Fry, I think, had a hip done. And I think Paul Young broke an ankle or something. I broke my shoulder 2 years ago. So we all just talk about what was broken.
This is known as an organ recital. You say something, "How are you?" and you go, "Well, my heart's a bit dodgy and the liver's packed up. The kidneys are giving me absolute agony."
I know, and a big music promoter that I know who lives locally, we kept bumping into each other in the doctor's surgery, and he said, "Do you remember when we used to bump into each other in the pub?"
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, I'm doing fine, but we all seem to have broken things in the last handful of years, yeah.
Well, yeah, you get to the stage where you no longer fall, you have falls.
You have a fall.
Different thing, let me tell you.
Different.
Yeah. Ain't it fun? Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Well, it's been lovely to talk to you. And
that was very good fun.
That was great fun. Tell us this as a final question. Who's the best thing you've ever seen? Best live show you've ever seen?
Oh, gosh. Do you know what? I didn't go to too much. I can't think off the top of my head. The best live show I've ever seen, but it was on the telly. Does that count?
Right,
give us that.
It was Prince and the Revolution at Syracuse. And I taped it on VHS. and I played it to death. I loved all the choreography, and I just loved him. I loved Wendy and Lisa, and Sheila E. was in the band, Queen of Percussion. She's incredible. I remember they all used to, you're talking about backing vocals being choreographed. I remember they all used to, there'd be about 10 of them on the stage, and they'd all just like twitch their right shoulder on bar 8 or something. It just used to look fantastic. And I was talking to my daughter about it last night. You know, there's people call it creative visualization, don't they? Or manifest it, it will come, it will come. Well, I remember Ronnie used to go off to work, and I didn't have a job at the time, and my job was to, you know, parcel up the cassettes and promo pictures and send them off to record companies and management and try and get a deal and stuff. And I used to put this film of Prince at Syracuse on and watch it and watch it and watch it and watch it until I knew every word, every step. And I'd be doing it in the living room like I was on the stage with him. Right. And now I think I manifested my career, because I was like, one day I'm going to be on a stage that big, and I'm going to do it too. So, and I loved it. In fact, I found it on YouTube the other day. I still think it's fantastic.
It's all on YouTube. Everything is on YouTube.
Yeah. Including the lasers.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. We shall find the lasers.
Really, really good. With Toyah with a Cockney accent. It's brilliant. Yeah. Very good to talk to you. Thanks, Carol, very much.
Oh, my pleasure.